and welcome to Meticulous Moments. My name is Juanita Kapp. You can reach me at meticulousmacarons@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege to meet a wide array of fantastic individuals. These individuals have truly touched my life in so many positive ways. Amongst this group of people, there are authors, public speakers, life coaches, poets, leaders, and visionaries. They are the unsung heroes of our time. Therefore, I decided to start the Meticulous Moments movement out of a sense of my gratitude. It is my way of giving back to the community. Let us share and reshare their stories in an effort to build a better society. This evening we are joined by the amazing Gordon D Melville. A little bit more information on Gordon. He's the founder, CEO and Chief Catalyst Strategist Guide of Jewel International. He is a digital radio host, podcaster and TV personality of the Long Bearded Guy. A high-performance mindset mentor, he's a best-selling author and a keynote speaker who teaches entrepreneurial men to navigate mental awareness and health in a world of judgment and toxic masculinity. He's worked with the likes of Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, and Zig Ziglar, developing his own coaching specialization. When not writing, podcasting, or coaching, he can be found focusing on his spiritual health alongside his wife of 30 years and 3 young sons. Let's welcome Gordon.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Meticulous Moments. This evening, we are joined by none other than the lovely Gordon D Melville. Gordon, welcome.
Thank you so much. Pleased to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. It's wonderful to be with South Africa.
Thank you, Gordon. It is such a pleasure to have you. And I know we've, met recently, but it really does feel like I've known you for much longer. So special welcome to you on Meticulous Moments this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Gordon. Please would you introduce yourself to the audience? We would love to know more about you.
Okay. I'm from Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. And I'm here with my lovely wife of more than 30 years and our 3 teenage sons. I'm the Catalyst Strategist Guide at Jewel International, which is I founded that company. And we are a coaching company that does high performance coaching. So we look at accountability, we look at mindset a lot. And that's sort of the vein. We do one-on-one coach, we do group coach, we do public speaking, keynote speaking.
Wow.
And I've got a live radio show, podcast and TV show that I found out this week added 200 more outlets. So I'm now reaching more than 450 platforms a week globally. So that's very exciting for me. It's called the Long Bearded Guy. I'm not sure where that comes from exactly, but that's the name of the show on Fridays on Inspired Choices Network, and they can find that at noon on Fridays.
Wonderful. That is a tremendous accomplishment. Well done.
I didn't do that, but I'm very, very happy that it's there.
Fantastic. That's wonderful, Gordon. Thank you very much. Do you have any hobbies that you enjoy? What do you do in your spare time?
What spare time? Yeah, I do. I enjoy some stuff. I love skydiving, bungee jumping, horseback riding. I love reading. I'm a big movie buff, so I enjoy movies. I love to read. So yeah, there's a bunch of things I enjoy doing.
That's wonderful. I actually did not know that you love bungee jumping. I went skydiving a few years ago, and I did 3 static line jumps. And I have to say, if ever I get the chance, I would jump at it because it was just amazing. How did you experience the bungee jumping? Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. Well, we had started by it sort of escalated. Our need for that high escalated. So we started with rock climbing, and you'd climb up, a fair ways, few hundred feet. And then it didn't excite us the same way. So then we started bungee jumping. Wow. And then that didn't excite us the same way anymore. So then we started skydiving. So I'd have to check my book, but I think I've got 288 jumps. The last 2 were halo jumps, high altitude, low opening, from 43,000 feet with oxygen strapped to you, and with the military in El Paso in the US.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Love that sensation.
Cool. That
Crazy.
is wonderful. That is wonderful, Gordon. Wow, now we have even more things in common.
Absolutely.
Tell me, Gordon, where did your leadership journey begin?
Great question. I you know what? I was reading that question. I wasn't sure. I'm trying to think back, because when in the kitchen, that's years and years and years ago. I got my chef's papers, and so I was running a kitchen at the time. And I think even then I didn't have the experience I have now, certainly, and I didn't have the personal development behind me the way I do now. But I was still a heart-centric. I like to think I was. Maybe ask my employees, maybe they might not have thought so, but I was still a heart-centric type guy, right? I cared about who they were as human beings before I was their boss or their, I think there's a big difference between being a leader and being a boss or being a manager, right? I think they're different things. And so, while I was the boss, I guess, people followed. People would, and they would let me know, hey, you know what? I appreciate the way you lead us, right? People would do stuff for me they wouldn't do for other people, which continued through my life. Into the car business was the same. Leadership was there, but I had started to do the personal development thing then, and so some of that started to bleed into and really affected the way I was leading, right? Because I think there's once in a while you get people like, oh, I'm a leader, and you go, is there anybody behind you? And they're like, well, no, there's nobody behind me. Well, then you may think you're leading, but you're not leading. Right? So I think it's a mindset, right? It's John Maxwell talks about leadership being an influence, right? You're influencing, being able to influence, and that doesn't necessarily require a title. People can influence and lead from everywhere and anywhere, so they don't need the title per se to be a leader. So
yes, wonderful. So that is where it started for you. That is amazing. And all this time, ever since, I know you've been working on your personal and your professional development, shaping you to even be a better leader than you were. And if we just look at your life and what you are accomplishing, that we can see that when it started there, it has really been building up to where you are today. And I know it will continue to just go from strength to strength. Gordon, tell me, has your leadership style changed during the course of the last few years, if you look back?
Yeah, tremendously. I think the personal development initiatives and the focus on creating a better me has absolutely changed. And once I got sick in late 2015, I think that it made me focus more on what was important. So I always kind of knew, I was always heart-centric and always had that piece. But I think it's become even more less about what people do and more about who they are. So who they're being, right?
Yes.
And so that's been a real huge focus in the last few years in terms of leadership. letting people know, hey, I care and I'm here, and
Yes.
allowing them to be themselves, right? I think a lot of times we lead a lot of times with judgment. We do a lot of judging about other people around us and whether they're doing good things or bad things, or we agree with them or disagree with them or whatnot. And at the end of the day, my opinion about anybody else's life really doesn't mean anything. It's not important because that's just my opinion of what they're doing. I need to focus. I believe we need to focus more on working on ourselves, and not that we're not helpful to other people, because we are, and there's a big focus, right? But I think if we don't do self-care, we don't look after ourselves, and that's not instead of, and I want to make that distinction. It's not a looking after myself instead of spending time or doing my responsibilities for my wife or my children or my clients or whatnot. It's it's adding in the time, it's manufacturing the time to make sure that I get what I need to make sure that I can show up 100% the way I want to for the people around me. I think it's selfish not to look after yourself first, right? Because if I don't look after me, which is what happened, right? I stopped. I had not been looking after me. And when I went sideways, everything went sideways. I was no good for my wife or my kids or my clients or anybody, right? So it becomes a huge focus on making sure that we look after ourselves in a way that can allow us to show up the way we want to for our family.
I love that. I love that answer. And I can resonate with that because myself, I was also in a situation where I had worked such extensive hours that I became so burnt out that I wasn't there when I really needed to be there, for family and children. And I wasn't looking after myself because it was all about the goal and the the output and the output. And I had to come to a screeching halt and say, if I continue like this, I'm not going to be good to anyone. I'm not going to be of value to anyone around me. And I just want to say from my perspective, since I met you in our first call even, your leadership shone through because you created a safe space. You created a space where, you have that energy about you of love and acceptance. And even in our first session, we had a lovely heart-to-heart. And that doesn't happen often, and I think that's your strength in your leadership, Gordon, because people feel comfortable around you. What would you say when I say that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. I received that. It's I think that the one thing that we don't do a lot of times is give ourselves the gift of being able to be present in the moment, right? Yeah. So when you and I were together, there wasn't, you had other things going on in your day. I had other things going on in our day before we got together, and we both had stuff going on after, but in the moment, there was nothing going on except Juanita, right? And so we gave ourselves that gift of being able to connect 100% in the moment, right? So they call it's a gift. They call it the present. Wow. Interestingly enough, right? It's a present. It's a gift to be able to do that. But I think we get all distracted with all these things going on in our lives, and we stop giving ourselves that gift. And I think that's when you and I were together, even the first time, we were 100%, in the moment. And I think that makes a monster difference to the way you connect with people, right?
Yes, fantastic. I agree with you. It was extraordinary, and it's one of the meetings that I'll never forget. I'll always remember, the sharing, and we were talking about energy, and you were explaining about the bubble. Would you like to explain that to the audience while we are discussing that? I love that.
Yeah. So our energies, if they take pictures of you, you can take pictures where you see an aura, right? You can see your energy. We're all energy. Everything is energy, right? We see stuff as hard, but if you look at it under a microscope, it's a bunch of atoms moving, right? So everything is energy, but that means we're all connected. And so my bubble, and when you and I were talking, my bubble connects with your bubble, right? Yeah. So, but you're in South Africa and I'm in Canada. So that's a pretty big bubble when you consider that, right? That energy that we're emitting, right? When we talk about energy being something that we emit, right? One of the sentences my sons say to themselves every day is, I am a magnet. What I put out is what I get back. And so that energy that we're putting out, we wonder why sometimes we have a crappy day, right? We wake up late, we hit the alarm, we're like, oh man, I'm late. And then as we get up, we don't stop that negative energy, right? We just let it flow, and we stub our toe getting out of bed, right? And we're like, oh man. And then we get in the bathroom and our toothpaste squirts out all over the sink and our coffee spills on our shirt, and we hit every red light on the way to work. And, it just snowballs and snowballs because we didn't stop that energy. So being able to stop that and go, no, wait, hold on, stimulus, pause, respond. And so I need to hold that and go, no, hold on. I'm going to make it a great day. It's going to be a great day, right? And so when I put that out, I stop that negative from going out and I reverse it into a positive. And so when you and I were talking, and as you and I are talking now, our energies connecting across time and space, right? That we're connected, our bubbles are connecting. And everything that's in the path of that bubble will feel our energy, yours and mine will feel that energy in a good way or a bad way. And I think a lot of times because we don't understand, it's an awareness thing, right? If we were aware and understood my energy, if it's not good, if it's not positive, is affecting the people around me. And if we're not getting a good reaction from people that are around us, we need to stop and check ourselves for a second and go, no, wait. Is that the energy I'm putting out? Am I putting out that negative? Because that's what I'm getting back, right? And it's not what my mouth is saying. It's what my brain is thinking. It's generated here. And from our heart, it's not generated from the things we say necessarily, although that can be an expression of an outcropping, right? Of that attitude and that energy. But that's a huge deal. Understanding how that energy works, right?
That is very, very interesting. And I believe it 100%. I resonate with that. That is the best illustration, articulation of what actually happens that I've heard before. Because as you're speaking, I can just imagine the bubble. I can see the bubble of energy connecting us. And, if we can all just learn like you teach us to make it a great day, can you imagine what a positive impact we will have, even as leaders? Because we work with teams, but the people on our teams aren't always, positive or maybe having a great day.
Absolutely.
So if we take that principle and use it, I think we can make a great difference. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, and we have the power. I think that's one of the things that people abdicate, right? When I'm saying make it a great day, I'm trying to get them to understand it's not just what happens to them. It's not have a nice day, because that's kind of organic and says whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We have the power to make it what we want it to be. And a lot of people go, no, that's too hard, or I don't have the power. Yeah, you do. We all have the power to be able to make it what we want it to be.
I agree completely. I agree. My next question to you would be, how do you practice work-life balance?
I've always kind of believed it's a misnomer. Work-life balance. We spend about 60% of our time at work, typically, right? So our work life is our life. Yeah. Right. So I used to believe, my work is supposed to facilitate my life. It's not supposed to be my life. The challenge with that is most of the time we're spending working, right? Yeah. Most of our life is working. So if I don't enjoy that, then it's a really sad way to live, right? So are there things that I focus on in terms of family? Yes. Work-life balance. What is my life? How do I identify that? Right. And so, I think a lot of times we spend time, certainly for a performance guy, right? If I'm at work, then I feel guilty that I'm not at home. And so I'm not 100% there. And if I'm at home, I feel guilty that I'm not working. So I'm not 100% there. Right. Yeah. And so, when I sort of let that go and go, you know what, when I'm at home and work is what it is, especially now with COVID, with people working from home, right? I don't go to the office anymore. I don't go to any other place. I'm coming to my studio, or I'm working. So just downstairs. And so it's I think being happy with what we do, right, and who we're being will make a huge difference in terms of understanding. Sometimes it's not the amount of time we spend. Sometimes it's the quality of time that we spend, right? When I'm with the boys, if I focus with them and there's no other distraction, and same, like I say, same with you, right? When I'm talking to you, there's nothing else going on. When I'm talking to them or spending time with them, there's nothing else going on. So I'm not picking up my phone and answering emails for work or text messages or whatever. I'm fully engaged with them, right? The quality of the time.
Yes. I agree with you completely. I think work-life balance is something for us to aspire to and to try and achieve. But I realize that, I look at my own life, life happens. I have set out a certain time for things, but sometimes something else happens and then we kind of have to work around it. And I think COVID has taught us adaptability. So we've had to adapt, but it's very true what you say. We have to enjoy what we do. You have to be happy with what you do. Otherwise, you'll just be miserable.
True. Well, if you don't enjoy what you do, you won't be as good at it either.
Yes.
Right? Because your heart's not in it. If you go and do something that people say, well, I've got this one friend, I don't spend as much time with him anymore because that's on his choice, not on my choice.
Yes.
But he doesn't like the what was the word he used? He feels convicted because he's not living out his best life, and he knows he's kind of given up. And so he was complaining about his job, and I was like, well, so go get another job. And he said, I can't. And I said, why? He says, well, I got bills to pay. And I said, I love you, right? And he said, yeah. I said, that's so weak. That's so weak that, I didn't say quit before you had another job. Right? That would be irresponsible considering you have bills and wife and family and whatnot. But go find something you prefer to do that you would enjoy doing, that you wouldn't whine and complain about all the time. Go find something you want to do and then go do that. And if you can't find that, create that for yourself. What do you want to be doing? Right? You want somebody else to bet on you. You bet on you. You reach out and try and do something on it. Right? We spend all this time trying to help other people create and manufacture their dream, right? We work for a company, we're helping them build their dream, right? But we don't spend any time working on our own dream. What's my own? Again, I go back to what am I doing compared to what am I being? Who am I becoming, right? What am I becoming? If I'm not on a path that I'm happy with, Jim Rohn said, we're not a tree, change it. You don't like where you are, change it. Right. Yeah. Just move. Right. You have the power to do that. We have the power to be able to create ourselves however we want. Right. Reinvent ourselves every day. The whole acorn thing.
Yeah.
Right? We have the ability to do that. Right.
Definitely. And believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
And trust yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you won't bet on you, how do you expect anybody else to bet on you?
That's a good point. If you don't trust yourself as a leader, how should someone else trust you? And it shines through. If you don't trust your own choices, other people pick that up. Right.
If you can't lead yourself, you're probably not going to be a good leader of other people. Because it's not a do what I say, right? I always talk about the whole reason I used Catalyst Strategist Guide in particular to this point is that I didn't want a travel agent. I don't want to be somebody that just sort of points the way and goes, hey, go there. I hear that's a good idea. Go there. Where did you go when you did that? Well, I've never been there, but I know it's a good thing. So go. Well, that's not what I want. What I want is someone that's in the adventure with me, in the trench with me, someone that's been where I want to go and is there standing there holding my hand, walking through whatever it is with me. Right. That's a guide. Right. That's somebody that's on the adventure with me. That's a much better leader. Right. Leading from the front with my heart. Right. Not leading from behind. Leading from in front of people. But if I can't do that for myself, if I can't lead me, how the heck do I expect anybody else to follow me? Right?
True. I love that sentence, leading from the front with my heart.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Authentic leadership. Gordon, would you describe the attributes and abilities that a leader should have, in your opinion?
That's a great question. Because I think there's a lot of different things that a leader needs to be effective at what they're doing. But again, I keep coming back to the heart piece, right? Do they need to be strong? Yep. Do they need to be have integrity? Yep. Do they need to be good work ethic? Yep. Do they need to continue to be learning? Yep. Do they, like, all those things are important, and they need to do those things. But I think working on as a leader, working on myself and coming from the heart, I think people don't care what I know until they know how much I care, right? So understanding that those people that I'm leading are not sort of that whole difference between manager and boss and leader, right? A leader actually gives a crap about their people. They understand, right? They love them as human beings before they, it has nothing to do. So people would come into my office, even in the car business, people would come in and sit down in front of me and cry or talk, or, hey, do you have a minute? And they would close the door, and I'm like, yeah. Now I was most of the time in a glass office, so everybody could still see us. But they would, other manager would come to me and go, why do my people come to you? Right? When they're having struggles, why do they come to you instead of to me? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess it's a heart thing, right?
Yes.
If they understand that,
Passion, empathy.
Right? They knew I cared about them. They knew.
It's a person.
Yeah. Right. Like it was that before work, right? It was that. Did I expect to have and I'm not a big expectation anymore, but even then, there was an anticipation that they were going to do a certain thing and act a certain way. Yes. And produce a certain result. Yes. Cause that's what you're there for, right? As the boss, as the leader, you're there to create a result. But if I can't get the result, I'll get it better with my heart than I will by enforcing with a whip, going, hey, come on, right? And then they hate me, right? Now there are cases where getting them all to hate me can create some synergy, in the sense that, okay, so now they have a common enemy, which was me, because I was pushing, right? Pushing. So they came together as a team and then started to do what we wanted. So it may have been an impetus at some point, but I always used to say to them, I can be the nice Gord. I'm always the heart-centered Gord, right? I'm always the heart-centered leader, right? But if I'm not getting the result I need, then you're going to see the other side of that coin, right? And that's not the side I want to be on. It's still a heart-centered side.
Of course.
Right? It's still heart-centered, but it's hey, you know what? We need to get a result. So, but like I said, I think a lot of times the result showed up more often when I was able to not use a whip, right? Sort of the difference between a carrot and a stick, right?
Yes.
I've always been hey, what's the carrot, right? What can I use to help them move forward? Yeah, in a positive way, as opposed to a negative reinforcement, right?
Wonderful answer. Is someone born a leader, or are leaders formed? What do you think?
I think they're formed. May they have an aptitude when they're born? Potentially, but I think that's crafted. I think they with time, they see stuff like that exampled around them from their parents or from teachers or from, the different situations they're in. And then there's a desire to serve. And I think that's I think the leaders that, and we can all think of some people, current as well as history, of leaders that wanted to lead, not because they give a crap about the people, but because they wanted power for themselves.
Yes, that happens. Yeah,
it happens. So it happens a lot. But so somebody that's leading from their heart is a completely different type of leader, right? That servant leader, that I'm here to serve others. In my businesses that I've run, I tell people, I'll outright make sure they know, you don't work for me, I work for you, right? My job is to make sure that you have the tools you need to be able to effectively do the job you've been hired for. And if you don't
Yeah.
have those things, that's my job, is to make sure that I get them for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's software or hardware or education or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. The point is, that's my responsibility to get that for you, right?
To equip them.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I think some of that's perspective, right? How do we look at that? How do we, as people, to the point of, is it born? I think there's royalty, I guess, right? If you're born in history, if you're born to royalty, I guess you're expected to lead, right? At some point, you're expected to lead. If you're at some point, there's the sun coming out on the side of your face, you look like an angel. So if I'm thinking Russian czars, I'm thinking, right, you're born into a family that's already in leadership.
Published. Right? Yes.
Right. And a lot of them didn't want to do it. Lots of them went, I don't want to be, that's not what I want but that's how they were born, right? That was their birthright. So it's rare to be born that way. I think most of them are created.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I've seen that before. I've also seen, and that relates to the point that you are making, I've also seen that in the COVID, people that were not likely to have developed into leaders were actually forced to do so. And it is that part of human survival that just, kicked in, and they just took up that baton and they turned into wonderful leaders, and they actually astonished me in certain areas. So that was very refreshing to see that human nature coming out, and how they were shaped in that mold, in that time.
That's human nature in terms of being forced into a space.
Yes.
Right. One of two things will happen. They either revolt against it and push back, or they embrace it and step up.
Yes, right. And I love that when they embrace it and they step up.
Yeah,
I love to see how people achieve their goals and how they make a difference. It's amazing to me to see someone being victorious, someone that was, not even thinking of themselves as a strong leader, going through that crisis time. And I always say crisis breeds a move of God. Absolutely. Going through that time of crisis and then just coming out the other side as this amazing leader. That is amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Gordon, would you describe self-leadership, please?
Self-leadership? Again, I think it goes back, like we were talking, it comes back to being able to lead me, right? Yeah. That's personal development. Right. That's saying, you know what, I'm very, very deeply grateful for where I am and what I have, but I'm not content. And so it means once I'm content, I stop pushing. Right. Once I'm content, I don't continue to strive to make myself better necessarily. Right. Yeah. And it's Papa wants us to live abundantly. Right. That's what his intention is. And I think sometimes we go, well, I'm not seeing abundance. So what's going on, right? So, but I think we don't do that because we stop working on ourselves. At some point we give up and go, you know what? Life just beats us up and beats us up and beats us up and beats us up. And eventually we go, okay, you know what? I give up. I'll stop pushing, right? So being able to do personal development, right? It's been 30 years. I read 5 to 7 books a month. I go to conferences multiple times a year. I'm journaling every day in 5 different journals. Like all those things are helping to improve who I am, right? It's that I'm learning new stuff all the time. I'm challenging what my beliefs are. I'm expanding what I know, right? And once I've expanded that, it doesn't go back. It can't go back. Yeah. So it just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding, right? And but that again, I have to work on me first.
Yes.
Right. I think leaders.
One of us.
Yes. Yeah. Right. We continue to learn. If we stop learning, we'll stop earning. If we stop learning, we'll stop growing. Right. So again, John Maxwell talks about intentional growth is something I learned from him. Right. We can grow organically, but putting myself into a space, and I think leaders do that. We put ourselves in spaces where we're intentionally growing. I'm going to put myself in a space where I know it's going to stretch me, right? The radio show, TV show, and podcast, that's that kind of broadcasting I'd never done before. So that's stretching me in a space where I know that it's a result I want, right? The whole concept of being able to outreach and touch people globally, that's the goal, right? That's what I want to make sure I achieve. But the method is something that I have never done before, right? So it's courage isn't the lack of fear, it's being afraid and doing it anyway.
Yes.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, exactly right. It's I heard a fireman say one time, who, they're trained to run in when everybody's running out, right? Everybody says they're so brave and courageous. And he said, you know what? He said, most people only need courage for a few seconds in their whole life, right? It's when big things happen, or when there's danger, which is real. Danger is real. Fear is not real, right?
Yeah.
So what he said to me, there's bits and pieces where, if in the moment the place is on fire and I know I have to go in because there's people in there, I just need those few seconds to sort of grab 5 seconds, 3 seconds to go, you know what, let's go. And as I start to move, the decision's already been made. So I only had to be courageous long enough to make the decision to go. So it was seconds. It's not, people think, well, I got to be courageous for days and days, or weeks and weeks, or years. No. Over a whole life, there's probably only a few times in our whole life we need to be courageous, right? Somebody asks us to do something illegal or immoral, and in that moment, where you're courageous for that long, because you're either going to say yes or no.
True.
Right, in the moment. But that could define you, right? If in that moment, if you say yes, I'll do whatever it is. Back in 2008, I was a general manager in a dealership, and they asked me to do something that was illegal, and I said no, and they said, great, you're fired. And I was like, okay. So, but the thing is, in the moment, that defines who you are, right? So character is can I do the right thing even when no one's paying attention? When nobody will ever know, can I still do the right thing? Because that's character, right? That's understanding, hey, you know what? I have the ability to be courageous in the moment, just for that long. I don't, and you think about it after, and I'm like, oh man, like once I thought about it after, I'm like, well, could I have done it? Is there a way to get it? No, there really wasn't, right? Right? You evaluate after, right? But in the moment, you only need that courage for just a second, just to get you going over that hump. Once you make the decision, whether you're going into the fire, or whether you're doing it legal, not legal, you're doing something that you should or should not be doing. Like once you've made that it takes courage to make that decision, right? To be able to change. I can't change my life today, but I can begin the process to change my life by decisions I make today, right? But being courageous enough to say, hey, you know what? This is the direction I want to go. And if I'm alone, I'm alone, right? If there's nobody follows me, you know what? Some of the best leaders that ever were, people didn't follow them right away. They realized after that they were a good leader and that they had done the right thing, right? But you have to do it standing alone, then you do it standing alone. If that's what you have to do, right?
I think we all get into situations where we have choices, difficult choices to make.
Absolutely.
And I think, that's how we also build trust with ourselves.
Absolutely.
Is to say, what you just said is, well, if I'm the only one making this, if I stand alone, I stand alone, but I'm going to do the right thing.
Right.
And I was thinking as you were talking that, the choices we make is the life that we live. I've heard that phrase before.
Absolutely.
And in that moment that we make that decision, it's either a yes or a no. There's no gray area.
Right.
That choice really takes us on a path in our life.
True.
So when we make the next decision as leaders, let us be clear on what we are deciding, because it's not only about us, it's about the people we lead.
Right.
That is such a weight actually to carry.
Absolutely. Well, and it's an ownership thing, right? We talk about extreme ownership. A lot of people will not do, even leaders sometimes will go, no, I don't want to own that, right? The challenge is, we are, all of us, we are where we are in our life, because of the choices and decisions we've made over our whole life, good, bad, or otherwise. Right. That's just owning, you know what? Have I made some terrible decisions? Yep. Have I screwed up? Yep. But I have to own that. Right. I think leaders own that and go, yep, you know what? And I'm trying to do better, or I'm not even trying. I am doing better. As I know better, I do better. Right. And as I'm becoming what I'm becoming and who I'm being gets better, all of those things get better. Right. So then it's a matter of owning and taking ownership of those decisions and saying, no, I'm not blaming somebody else. I'm not blaming my boss or my ex-boss or my ex-husband or, my partner or my kids or my parents or, they say excuses are like buttholes. Everybody has one. But if we live there, right? If we live there, if we live there and just stay, well, that's not good, right? We're giving up and abdicating the power we've got. We're giving up the ability to be able to control outside of ourself. Control is an illusion.
Yes.
Right. If you have children or pets, you realize very quickly control is an illusion. It's not real. Right. The only thing I can control is what I think and what I do. This. That's all. And that's a full-time job. To control that's a full-time job. I don't have time to do it with anybody else. Right. So, but a lot of times we don't even do that. We don't even learn to control our own stuff, our own mind, our own emotion, our own action. Lots of times we don't learn how that works. It was one of the biggest realizations I had working with and studying Napoleon Hill. Because, not with him, he died a long time ago, but with the information, right, is that it's understanding how our mind works and then mastering control of our own mind and our own emotion. So what I do, what I think, and what I do, right? Because if I can control that, it goes back to what's on my bedroom wall. I wrote it right on the wall. Stimulus, pause, respond, right? Because the power's in the pause. The power's in the ability to go, no, wait. Something happens stimulus-wise, said, done, something happens. And instead of reacting, I have to pause. I have to hold on to it for a second and go, no, wait. Let's take the emotion out of it. Do I have all the information, like all the bits and pieces? But I have to hold on to that, because if I don't, I'm reacting. And typically a reaction will hurt people around me. That will blow up relationships. I'll do things or say things that I can't take back. Right. And so but if I can't control my emotion, if I haven't mastered control of my emotion and my mind, what I'm thinking, right, then I'm giving up. And I think that's where, again, leaders, whether it's in sports, it's in business, it's in life, leaders are people that know and understand what their brain is, how it works. They've mastered control of their own mind and their own emotion, or at least they're on that track, right? They understand what the power of that is. And so they embrace that and they start to learn, right? And again, you go back to they're always learning. They're intentionally learning. Right? How do I get better at this? How do I get better at this? And so, it's an ownership, extreme ownership of my own stuff, right? Owning my decisions, not putting it off and saying, well, I couldn't do that, or I can't do it because of somebody else or something else, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking great leaders do not shy away from introspection.
Right.
Instead, we move towards it,
right,
and say, what am I bringing out in my team? Does it come from me? What are the good things that I've done? What are the negative? How do I deal with the negative things or the attributes I might have or little characteristics? How do I hone the positive skills that I have? Constant introspection, never getting to a place of being content, like you've said, aspiring for more, developing each day.
Absolutely. Well, I'm thinking that we forget that the words we speak to ourselves as well as to other people, right, are things that, somebody had made the comment to me when that's a few years ago. I hear it a lot now in terms of calm and peace. But back then I didn't hear it so much. And somebody had said that to me, hey, you're a calming type guy. You know, we were working with kids. I was at a camp and just for the day with my kids, and they had said, can you watch these kids? You seem to be a little more calm than some of the parents. Can you? And I didn't think I was. And after I had said to somebody else, I don't know what they were seeing. And somebody said to me, a mentor said to me, you know what? Lots of times we can create that and bring that out of the people we're talking to by telling them they are.
Wow.
Right. So when I say to my kids, hey, you're brilliant, you're smart at math, you're good at math, or you're, you know, you do have the patience that you need. It's there. I can see it. Right. They example that. Right. They'll illustrate and live up to, well, dad said I had this in me, so it must be there. And so they act that way. Right. I bring that out of them by telling them that it's there. Right. And so a good leader will bring that stuff out of his people, out of her people, out of their people, right, by telling them, hey, I see this greatness in you. I see this right. And I think it works the other way too.
Yes.
Right? Oh, you're a moron. Okay, well, guess what? That's exactly what's going to happen. Why? Because that's what you're bringing out of them.
Yes.
Right? You suck at this. Great. Guess what? That's not getting any better because that's what you're going to bring out of them. Right. So being really careful, not only what our mouth says, but what our brain's saying. That energy we're putting out, right, is something that's way more powerful than we realize or give it credit for.
I agree with you. And I've seen that in my own children since they were small. I always told them to say the following: nothing is impossible for me. Nothing is too difficult for me. And I've seen as they've grown that they have, you know, they've just blossomed because they believe they can do anything. Right. And they do it. Right. And I agree, we must be very careful as leaders what we say to people, because it might just be something that they take into their hearts and they make it theirs, and it might not always be positive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and the word "I'm impossible," if you split it up different, says "I'm possible."
Yes, I love that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, wow. It's there is no such thing as impossible, right?
Absolutely.
It may be hard, it may be difficult, right?
That's life. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way life works, right?
Yeah.
Anything is possible if you want to, right? If you have a plan to make it happen, nobody has a plan to stop you. And I think that's where a lot of times we fall down, is that we believe it's somebody else's fault. And I think leaders absorb that, right? They go, no, it's my fault, right? I let them down somehow, or I didn't give them what they needed, or right, I'll take that and make the hard decisions and take the blame when there is blame, if there is, right? They'll take it, but they'll also give credit, right? I was talking to someone just recently where I was like, I saw an ad that they were a speaker at. And I'm like, wow, congratulations, you're speaking at this event. And she started to laugh. She goes, yep. She said, I'm speaking at the event, but she said, it's my event. And I said, well, you're not in the headline. You're like with all the and she goes, I know. She said, the goal is she said, I'd like to do that where I'm edifying and uplifting people around me. I don't need the credit. Right. So it doesn't show anywhere on the thing that it's her event. Right. And which I thought was very good. But again, that's a leader, right? That's giving credit to other people, right? Knowing that, you know what, if I uplift them and lift them up, they'll rise to that and do better. So
I love that. I love that. And I'm thinking about the first conversation that we had. We had a lovely conversation about God, you know, and how much we love God and how much we owe everything that we are and can do to him. And my next question would be to you: how does Papa fit into your leadership framework?
That's where it's anchored, right? That's the foundation. That's the topic of my show last week and this week, and probably the following week, is foundation. Because I think if our foundation isn't where it belongs, you're building on sand, right? And at some point, that house of cards is going to come down. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but at some point it's going to come down because it doesn't have a solid foundation. So Papa, and I call God Papa because of my relationship with him, but that's, I think, our value and our worth as humans. It should come from him. It should come from, right? Even my opinion of me doesn't matter. Papa's opinion of me matters, right? He created everything. He holds it all in his hands. He holds it all together. And I think it's arrogant when we, as humans, we go, Papa says, well, I love you with infinitely because you are, not for any other reason, not because of what you think or what you do, and not because of your bank account, or not because of what you drive or where you live or what your title is at work or who you know or none of that matters. Papa says we have infinite value because we are, right? For no other reason than we are. And then we look at him and go, you know what? The old man doesn't know what he's talking about, because if he knew what I've done and what I'm thinking, he wouldn't love me that much. He wouldn't like me that much. Right. Well, he knows us better than we know ourselves. You know, he knows more, and he knows the beginning from the end, which means he already knows all the decisions we're going to make, all the things we're going to screw up for the rest of our life or do well for the rest of our life. He already knows what they are.
He knows
right.
it.
Right. He knows it all already. So, but understanding that our worth and our value is built into that. Right. If as a leader, if my worth and my value isn't where it belongs, it's very difficult to lead other people. Right. Because you get people with and we can talk about self-image or anyway, the concept of where our confidence comes from, right? Where that comes from. Some of it's experience. I get more confident as I get more experienced in a space, right? But that base innate value and worth. And I talk about and illustrate it very quickly by saying, if the ocean is the abundance Papa wants to give us, right? He wants us all to be abundant. Right. And a lot of people don't have abundance, and I don't understand why I don't have abundance. You know, he wants us to have abundance. But they're using lack thinking instead of abundance thinking, right? First of all. And secondly, if the ocean is the abundance he wants to give us, and we're in line to get that from Papa, and you're in front of me, and Papa looks down at you and goes, okay, Juanita, what do you want? And you go, oh, can I have it all? And he goes, yes, I want to give it all. And he picks up the whole ocean and hands it to you. And you walk away with the whole ocean, right? And then he looks down and goes, okay, Gordon. And I step up and it's empty. And he fills it all back up. And then he goes, what do you want? And I'm like, well, I want what Juanita got. And he's like, yeah, no problem. I want to give that to you. And he picks the whole ocean up and hands it to me. And I walk away with the whole ocean, right? Yeah. The challenge comes that because of who we believe we are, and because of what we believe our worth is, we show up with a spoon to get his abundance. And he looks at us and goes, well, I'll fill your spoon, but that's not what I want to give you. Right. But because this is what we feel our worth is, this is all my value is. This is all I'm worthy of. And Papa gives us that. And we walk away going, abundance, my ass. Abundance, what? Like there's no abundance, right? There's no such thing. And it's on us. That's not on him. He wants to give it to us, but because our worth, and I think so many things pop out of that. So many things grow out of that lack of worth, right? Yeah. If I don't think my worth or value is good enough, why would I do personal development? Why would I make it better? I don't think I'm worth doing that. Why do people struggle to release weight? How come? Well, because their personal self-image isn't their worth and their value isn't what it's supposed to be. And so they go, I'm not worth putting that time and effort into eat clean and to do exercise we know what to do. It's not a matter of not knowing. We all know, right? It's a knowing doing gap. There's a gap. There's a space where we go, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. I know I am, but I don't do it. How come? I think a lot of that stems out of or grows out of not having a value and a worth that's where it belongs. Because once I believe my value and my worth, really truly believe what that is, right? That I'm a child of the king. I'm a prince. You're a princess, right? That's our birthright. That's who we are. And if we really truly believe that, would we make decisions and choices differently? I believe we would, right? I really truly deeply believe that if we really knew what our worth and our value was, really, truly, deeply understood that, we would be completely different humans. The world would be a completely different place.
I agree. If we only realized how precious we are in the eyes of God.
Absolutely.
If we could only love ourselves the way He loves us,
Absolutely.
we would all walk away with that ocean.
Right. Exactly right. Right. Like when I was doing I remembered, and that's just a new thing in the last probably 5 weeks now, 6 weeks. From my experience with suicide, Papa let me remember one of the things that was an awareness that came just recently was what part of my worth is, right? There's more than 8 billion people on the planet, and he showed up in my bathroom when I needed him, right? If that doesn't tell me what my worth and my value is to him, there's nothing I'll do in the rest of my life that'll ever give me what that value, in a better way, show me what my value is to him, right? He loves us enough, he likes us enough, wants to spend time, and so we look at it and go, well, okay, how does that work, right? Again, we go back to personal ownership and responsibility in terms of my relationship this way, right? If I'm really truly want that relationship there, right, then it becomes a personal thing. It's not and I don't think anybody else can judge that, right? I think there's however the way identify it. If people don't believe in Papa, no problem. If it's the universe, or it's infinite intelligence, or it's I'm getting to a point where it's Muhammad or Buddha, or if that's how they identify higher power, that's how they identify Papa. Great, as long as it's a personal relationship, it'll do what it's supposed to do, right? And that'll come out in the way they live. That'll come out, that worth and value, if they really believe that, from that higher power, is a foundation that you can build on, right?
Absolutely. I'm just so thankful to God that in that darkest moment that you experienced, that He was there in your bathroom, being that light in your life. And just, in that moment, I believe everything changed for you. And you are making such a wonderful difference in the world that, God has to be glorified for the things that He does. And I'm thankful that you are here with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Gordon, what was the hardest decision you've had to make as a leader?
Ooh, the hardest decision. The hardest decision. I think difficult decisions can come in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's a flagrant thing, meaning it would be hard for everybody. And sometimes those hard decisions are ones that are personal ones that we go, you know what, I need to make this kind of a decision for me, right? So, letting people go was always a hard thing to do. As the leader, parting ways with people was always a difficult thing. And I didn't like to fire people. Usually I put them in a position where I would ask them to do things that I knew they weren't going to want to do, legal and moral things. They weren't immoral. Just, I was asking them to do stuff that maybe they didn't want to do. And so they let themselves out of the, right. They came and said, hey, I quit, as opposed to me firing. Yeah. But that's always a hard thing to do. And then there's been decisions where, it was hard to take my family. We've been located in this general area for most of our lives, all of us. And there was a time when a friend asked me to move for work, and I didn't want to, and I had never done that before. And because again, your leadership doesn't just happen at work; it happens at home, it happens here, right? So, my family looks to me as the leader to some degree, my wife and I, right, to lead. And so that was a really hard choice to move. I would do it again, looking back at it, even though it was wildly disruptive to my family, to my boys. but again, really, really hard decisions that have to be made, right? And I think sometimes we learn resilience from some of that, right? My oldest son, because of that decision that I made, he ended up, well, they all ended up, but he was the one that got most affected by that. I think he was in six or six different public schools before grade 8, right? And so, there were schools. The one school they were in, they were only there a week. And then we had moved them again, not because we wanted to, but because the situation required it. And
Yes.
right. And we didn't want to do that as parents, but it was like, we don't have a choice. This is what has to happen. Right. So, but I think it builds resilience in them, that they can go into situations where, where other people may step back or not put themselves out there. They make friends quickly because that's the position they've always been put in. Right. Now we've been stable here for 8 or 9 years, so that's good.
Fantastic.
That's good for them, right? But again, those are hard decisions when I think it was harder on my wife and I than it was on them, right?
Yes.
We were the ones going, oh man, we can't move. Like, how do we? And so I think it was harder on us right? They just go, okay, well, the one struggled with it a little bit. Our middle son struggled a little bit, but he won citizenship award in 3 different schools, and he was only in one of those schools for less than 6 months. So he was thriving in those. They all thrive in those environments, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes adversity shapes us,
Right. Absolutely.
and it passes, and only many years later, when we are faced with something similar, we kind of think to ourselves, well, this is not the first time. I've done it once, I can do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's leadership, right? That's the difference. I'm teaching two of my boys are trying to learn how to drive at the moment. And so, some of that stuff, and I pull my hair out on occasions and make sure my life insurance is paid up and, hold on to the handle and whatnot. But, but it's that experience that you say to them, look, I'm trying to help. And they're like, yeah, but I'm afraid. I'm like, no, I get that part I understand, but we're trying to give you the experience that we have of driving for more than 30 years. Listen to us. We understand. We've been in the same position you are. Yeah. Right. We've been scared. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. Right. But I go back to, even the piece with the skydiving and the bungee jumping and all that stuff. Right. Yeah. Once you get to a point where, the rock climbing was fun. When I first did it, it was exhilarating, and it was, it was so much fun. And, it really got your adrenaline going and whatnot. And then eventually, after you've done it for a while, okay, it was fun. We had good time doing it, but it was that adrenaline's not there anymore because you've done it before, right? Yeah. And then so you step into the next thing, and so you start bungee jumping. I'll never forget that, because I did it with bungee and I did it with skydiving. When the first time we bungee jumped, I'll never forget that, standing. My ankles are all wrapped up in the cords, right? The bungee cords, and I was standing on the edge of this bridge over the water. And I looked back at my buddies and I was like, if I live, I'm going to kill somebody. Like, I'm going to kill you, right? Because you're scared, right? Yeah. But we did it anyway. And as I'm bouncing around, that was wicked. Let's do that again, right? So, but the same thing happened when we started to skydive. The first, we were on tandems, right? And we were strapped to somebody else. And I looked over at my buddy and I was yelling, hey, you know what? If we live, I'm going to kill you, for getting into this, right? But once you jump out, it's exhilarating, and then you go, you know what, this is awesome. But that again, I go back to the whole concept of robbing ourselves of the gift of being in the moment. Why? Because I'm anxious about what could happen. 99.9% of the time, that is not going to happen. None of that stuff will ever happen. But we rob ourselves from being able to be present by being anxious and stressful about something that probably isn't happening anyway, right? As a parent, my middle son's just starting to date, and you give him a curfew, and so you're waiting. Your brain's thinking 1,000 different things what could have happened to him, right? Yes. None of which are good, right? It's never ever they're having a great time. That's never, as a parent, that's not what you're thinking. It's like yeah, exactly, right? So, and again, and he walks through the door, and you're like, phew, right? And you're like, okay, yeah. But we stop ourselves from being able to enjoy the evening by ourselves without the kids right there, because we're worried about the kids not being right there, right? And when they are there, you're like, go away. Like we need some space by ourselves. And when we get it, we're worried about it. So it's just that circle of right
Life.
of life. Exactly right. That's exactly what it is. Exactly.
I love that. Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that other parents also feel the way that I do.
I think a lot of parents feel that way.
I mean, it's not that it's that we want them to have fun. We just want them to be safe.
Exactly right. Absolutely right. Yep.
Gordon, do good leaders delegate?
If they're not a good leader unless they can.
Good answer.
Yeah. A good leader, like a really good leader, can disappear from the environment and everything will continue to run exactly the way it did when they were standing there, right? Because they've empowered people around them to make choices and to make decisions, and they don't need to have that person. It's almost the leader's almost mentoring, right? They're all almost putting themselves in a position where they're working their way out of a job, right? By making sure that all the pieces are there, that the whole thing runs right. I'll never forget that an owner of a dealership said to a colleague of mine who did all the ordering, all the cars, but they were all in his head. He had a photographic memory.
Wow.
And, the boss said, congratulations. That's awesome that you have that. But at some point it's going to get you fired. And he's like, what does that mean? He goes, well, if God forbid, but if a bus hits you tomorrow, I'm screwed because I have you have it all up here. Yeah. It's not written down anywhere. I can't see it anywhere. Right. To the point of, do they delegate? Absolutely they do. And will they make the hard decisions? Yep. Does the buck stop with them? Yep. Will they own the mistakes that are made by those people? Yep. Yeah. Whether they did it or not, right? They empowered that person to make that decision. And if they screw it up, they take the ownership of it. Right. They don't blame, right. They don't blame that person. Right. Which I think that's not common. I don't think. I think a lot of leaders will blame, the people around them or underneath them. I find it interesting that in sports, they don't fire the players. They fire the coach.
Yeah.
Right. They let go of the leader. Why?
It's so wrong.
Right. If you can't get your team to do the things we need them to do, then you're not an effective leader, in which case you're not here anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So do they delegate? Absolutely they do. They have to. There's no way. They can't be everywhere. And when they try, they're going to burn out.
Yeah.
Right. We wonder why. Right. They just keep holding on to the power for themselves. Well, no. There's lots of it to go around. Hey, right. You guys share it. This is our environment. It's not my environment. Right. Yeah. So absolutely. 100% they do delegate.
I agree with you completely. Do you find that leaders procrastinate more after the COVID-19 pandemic took over?
I think everybody procrastinates more after COVID, right? Partly because I've got a little bit different idea about COVID. I think life was happening so fast before COVID. Nobody was really paying attention. A lot of people, most people were not paying any attention to who they were being or who they were becoming. And then when everything shut off, they didn't have any choice but to look at themselves in the mirror, because they couldn't go out and party, and they couldn't see their friends, and they couldn't, right? So now they're stuck going, hey, there's a mirror. Is that who I thought I was going to be? Right. So do they procrastinate? I think a lot of people, I to the point, I think, do we all do it in some level? Yeah. When we work from home, right? When I first started to work for myself, somebody said, what do you like that? I said, I love the fact I'm working for myself. And they're like, why? And I go, oh man, I've got ultimate freedom to do whatever I want. I make my schedule come and go as I want. I get up when I want. I go to bed when I want. I ultimate freedom to do what I want. And they went, great. What is the downside? of working for yourself. And I'm like, I have ultimate freedom to get up when I want, go to bed when I want. There's no one to tell me what to do, right? Because right, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's like there's no one to kick my butt, make sure I get to work, right? Now, because of COVID, it's come down to my office inside the house, right? I'm still working from home, right? So a lot of that becomes I'm not getting away from it. So will I sleep a little longer? Yeah, I don't have traffic to get through. I don't have to fight in a line at the coffee shop to get my morning coffee, right? I can make it for myself. And so are there things that we do? I think so. I think that's human nature to kind of put it off. I've always believed, and I don't have it in my studio yet. In every office I've ever been in, I have a picture of a frog being swallowed by a blue heron. And the frog, the head is in and the shoulders are in, but the back feet are strangling the heron, right? He's like holding on to the heron, sort of a never give up deal. But it says right on it, eat the frog. And I forget who said that. I don't remember. I think I heard Brandon Bouchard say it, but it may not have been his stuff. But when they talk about eating the frog first, right, what they're saying is find the thing that you really don't want to get done today. I don't want to do this, and do it first. Get the hard part out of the way, and then the rest of the day is easy, right? The rest of the day is no problem, or the rest of the week, or the rest of the year, whatever it is, right? So in terms of procrastinating, I think it's something that we all do when it's not something we really want to do, right? If we really want to get it done, no matter what it is, we'll find a way to get it done. Even if it's something that stretches us, even if it's hard, if we really badly want to do it, we'll find a way, good, bad, or otherwise, right? If it's I really badly want to eat that bag of chips. You know what? Should I eat that bag of chips? No, I shouldn't eat that bag of chips. It's not good for me. But you know what? If I have I'm going to find hell bent to find I am going to have chips, then I'm going to eat chips, right? That's just right. That's how we are, right?
Yeah, human nature.
It's human nature, right? So again, some of that's coming back for me to my why. Right? It's coming back. What's the purpose underneath it? Because I am not going to procrastinate on things that I really want to do. I look forward to getting up and reading and journaling and going to events and talking to people, and I look forward to that. That's not something I procrastinate, even when there's pain, even when it's going to be hurtful to do it. Part of my brain goes, no. I badly want to do that, so I am going to make sure that I get it done, right? And so no matter what I have to do. So, I got up this morning and had a meeting at 5 a.m., which mornings are never good for me. Actually with somebody from South Africa, actually. And
wonderful.
So Peter and Nastine, I was talking to them this morning. Right. So I did that at 5 to 6 o'clock, but there was a lot of barometric pressure, which causes some extra pain for me. So I did that, and then I went back to bed. And then, I got up to take my son to work at noon, and got him to work. When I came home, I went back to bed, and I got up literally 20 minutes before we got on. But right. So I'm doing the self-care I need to make sure that I can show up on the things that I need to show up for. Right. So, do we procrastinate? Yeah, we do. But I think we'll procrastinate less if we're doing something we really enjoy. Right. If our why is, hey, you know what? This isn't just something I want to do. It's something I must do. I have to get this done. Right.
Yes.
We won't procrastinate it.
We all go through that. Two things are coming to my mind when you were talking about the COVID. It's true. We were all in this rat race. We were all like little hamsters in a wheel. Yep. And the moment, I'm in the ministry, and the moment that the COVID hit, everything was closed.
Right.
And church was also closed. And
Absolutely.
I'm used to being all over the place, all over the show. And I'm used to being with people. And all of a sudden, I'm stuck at home.
Right. No people.
I have no meetings.
Right.
And they're all just my family. There's no people.
Yep.
And I had to go sit down and rethink my life.
Right.
And the introspection that transpired, and the questions that came up, and the realizations were astounding, because I realized there were certain things that I had not done that I've always wanted to do.
Right.
And the day my mom passed away, She said to me, she died in 2020, not of COVID, but of stage 4 brain cancer.
Oh,
She
sorry to
said
hear
to me,
that.
oh, thank you, Gordon. She said to me, she wanted to do so many things that she never got the chance to do. And she said to me, Juanita, stop putting things off. Just go do them.
Right. Absolutely.
And that instilled something in me. Like now, if I have a list of things that I've always wanted to do, and now I'm proactively ticking those things down because I think of the fact that she passed away at the age of 65. I mean, that's such a young age.
It is very young.
And I promised her I'm not going to postpone because she always postponed. No, she first has to do this for others and now I don't do that anymore.
Good.
And the second thing I'm thinking is, you and I, when we see a big task and we know we kind of don't feel like doing it today, that's the first thing I do. It's the first thing I tackle because I want to work on my discipline. Right. So if there's something I know in my spirit, I'm like, I'll do it today. Then I force myself as my discipline in my discipline protocol. And I say, that's the first thing I'm going to tackle.
Absolutely.
And then you feel that sense of accomplishment when you've done that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a choice though, right? We talk about, I talk lots about us choosing.
Yeah.
Right. We have the power to choose. We have the power to do that. It may not be an easy choice, right? But we have the power to make those choices and to do what we want, to make it another great day, right? Amen. We have that power, right? It's, it's such a powerful, we have way more power than we realize we do.
Yeah.
Right.
If only we can tap into that, but we should practice that. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's Papa. We have Papa. He's inside of us already.
Amen.
Right? There is no life without him. That means if I'm alive, he's here. Yeah. Right. That means that I have Papa level, all of those things. I've got Papa level love and patience and kindness and all the things that they're all here already. I just have to find a way to tap into that and let Papa flow out of me. Right. Allow him to come out through me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I would like to ask you about your lovely talk show. Please reiterate to the people, the long bearded guy, your talk show. Tell us the time again. I know it's noon Fridays EST.
It is. At noon on Inspired Choices Network. Is the name of the it's a free download on anywhere you listen to your podcasts and whatnot. It's a little ICN blue and pink. But if you go there, you can find my ads. You can find the shows. It's a brand new thing. I did the second one last week. I do the third one tomorrow.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to that. It just got a boost yesterday. Binge, who carries the TV portion of it, we were on about 120 platforms through Binge, TV platforms digitally. And yesterday we found out they added another 200. So instead of being out on 250 platforms, I'm now out on 450 platforms.
That is fantastic.
Which is amazing
It is amazing.
Yeah, I want to achieve that goal. In terms of, or the mission, not the goal, but the mission is to have a meaningful connection with more than 10 million men globally in the next 24 months with a message of hope that there are positive ways to deal with the emotions that we all have, that stress and anxiety and there's positive ways to deal with them so that we don't have to end up with a vice and in a deep depression state or suicide. And so, that gives me that's the marketing arm. I'm using that as the marketing arm for Jewel International, which is my company. Jewel is, Jandon is the name of the company that my wife and I have together. But JEWIL, Jandon Empowerment with Intention Life Coaching. So it's a coaching piece. But the TV show, podcast, and live radio show, if they get in, between 12 and 1 Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight Time, I guess, right at the moment. If you're into the audio version of it and you have the capacity to watch, get into the chat room and let me know you're there. And what they'll do is my producers will send you a link to go into my live studio audience so people can watch what's going on, not just listen to it. But yeah, it's very cool. And again, that's a stretching thing for me, right? It's a broadcasting thing I haven't done before. So, learning how that works, how that industry works, and how all of it, there's a lot more stuff that happens behind the scenes on a radio or on a TV than you realize. But, to make it look natural, it's not natural at all. It takes a lot to get it to look that way. So, it's been awesome, right? I've only done 2 shows, but I've had more than 500 people reach out with likes or loves or comments or questions or whatever, even after those 2 shows. So it is hitting a nerve, and it is touching people. It is awakening, right? Because I think right at the moment we need to hear, hey, you're all right the way you are. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you, right? There are ways to deal with some of these things that we all struggle with, right? So
absolutely,
that empowerment of people is that's the mission.
The mission is amazing, and I'm thinking as you are talking that touching those men's lives are touching so many families.
Absolutely.
So many wives' hearts and so many children, and putting so many things back into place for families. And I think that's also part of why it is evoking so much, support, because people realize that.
Absolutely.
And men are also important, and their mental health is important, and their feelings are important. And if we've learned something from COVID, it's that there's a lot of fear and worry and anxiety after COVID happened, because for some people, their lives just carried on like it was before. Yeah. But for other people, everything fell apart, and they had to kind of rebuild their lives. And that is really, where the pressure comes in for most people.
Very true. Very true. Well, and it's not just like my heart is for entrepreneurial men, because that's what I am. I'll talk to anybody. I'll do coaching with anybody. And I think the one thing somebody had talked to me about while I've been in this process this year, they had said, be careful about advertising specifically to men. Your avatar can be men, but be careful, because women can do something to your men that you can't do. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, well, a woman can be watching your show going, wow, my husband needs to hear this, or my dad, or my brother, or my uncle, or whatever. Hey, get your butt in here. You need to see this, right? I can't do that to them, right? Which they can. So they said, be careful not to exclude women from the advertising, right? Because it'll, they need the help too, right? Some of them need some of that reinforcement that says, hey, Papa loves you, and he likes you a lot. And you have infinite value and infinite worth, regardless of what the people around you say, regardless of what you say to yourself, right? So yeah, it's been very exciting to watch happen. Watching your dreams come to fruition and manifest themselves in your life, and watching the support from all these other people, and watching things sort of accelerate, and it's very, very exciting to watch. It really is.
Wow. It's very interesting how it's unfolding. And I think, you're going to look back a few years from now, and there are going to be so many testimonies that will come from this, of people that have really, come from a place of brokenness to a place of being healed and fulfilled and fresh, starting a fresh new life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
What would be your top go-to novels or quotes or audio books or speakers for your personal development? Tell us, what do you go to?
Well, the biggest pieces are, obviously I can go to my Bible, right? But I also go to places like Law of Success. I'll go to, that's Napoleon Hill. Outwitting the Devil is something that he wrote, right? Wow. I'm big in Napoleon Hill. John Maxwell for leadership, and we're talking leadership. Massive leadership guy, and so a lot of I love John and the mentor he's been in my life in terms of whether it's audio, it's book. I'm a bigger book than audio person, and I know there's a place for audio in the car, right? But or on a walk or whatever, on a bike ride or whatnot, to be listening to something. But I tend to be the type of human that I hear something I like and I want to write it down. Well, if I'm moving or in the car, I can't write it down and I'm not going to remember. So I tend to, usually I'll buy 2 copies of a book, because I know I'm going to destroy one of those books, writing in the margins and underlining and highlighting, and I'm going to destroy one of the books, right? So, Maxwell, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn, Les Brown, Darren Hardy. There's a whole whack of people that Grant Cardone I worked with for forever. So depending on what I'm looking to learn or listen to, there's a lot of people that, and like I say, I'm reading 5 to 7 books a month on average. So I'm reading voraciously, but it doesn't matter. Even things like that's Dr. Seuss. And Green Eggs and Ham, but it's a kid's book. It's a primary reader, but it can teach some good skills in terms of, I had it, Grant actually, because I worked with him. That's his that's Grant Cardone's autograph in Dr. Seuss, right? And that says no or no. So it says no, KNOW. I have to know, or I'm going to get an NO.
Yes.
No or no.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a good book for selling in terms of persistence, because that guy asks he wants them to eat green eggs and ham. Try it like this. No. Try it like this. No. Will you try it like this? No. Will you try it like this? No. He asks them like 78 times in a book that's got 75 pages to eat green eggs and ham. Right. And the weirdest thing happens in that book, because we go and as entrepreneurs and as coaches or as people, I don't want to bug people. I don't want to ask too many times, because I don't want them to get upset with me or frustrated or whatever. In the book, he asks him, it's more than 75 times, if he wants to eat green eggs and ham. Finally, he says, okay, I'll have green eggs and ham. And he eats it, and then he thanks him 3 times. Right? He thanks him for being that persistent. Right. So, we don't want to be in people's face, and we don't want them to not like us, or I don't want to be a bother. No. If you really have truth and you believe it's something that they need to hear, it behooves you to keep pressing, at least plant the seeds, right? Somebody else may harvest it at some point later, but at least plant the seeds, right? At least put that stuff in. So, I read stuff now that I know I'm not, some of it, not all of it, lots of it is stuff I believe and agree with. But once in a while, I'll read something that I don't agree with, that I know I'm not going to agree with, because what it does is push me back and challenge why I believe what I believe. Yeah. Right. So it's a challenge to go, no. You know what? I want to have all the sides. I want to understand what the other side of, I know what I believe. What's the other side of that? Right. Yes. So that I understand why I believe it. All the views. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So there are lots and lots of things that I'll read. Extreme Ownership was a great book, is Jocko. It was a couple of Navy SEALs, former Navy SEALs that on accountability and on leadership, on ownership of our choices.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yes, persistence, very important in leadership.
Absolutely.
Persistence, knock on every door.
Right.
Don't give up.
Right. Consistently persistent.
Yes.
If that didn't work, figure it out another way. If that didn't work, figure it out another way. Right.
Yes. If they say no, figure out the way to get them to say yes. Right. And you know what? A lot of times maybe they're saying no because they don't have all the information yet. They're not saying no, they're saying I don't have all the data. Maybe they're saying not yet. Right? Maybe they're right at this moment that doesn't work. Maybe doesn't for whatever reason, but at least if you're planting the seed, then when they do need it, or they do realize, you know what, that Juanita, I need to talk to her because she was talking about this, and
I don't remember exactly what she said, but I know, and I remember how she made me feel. And I remember that, you know what, I was thinking, you know what, I need to talk to her again, right? I need to find that out. And whether that's a week, 2 weeks, 6 months, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, at some point, you plant the seed. We as humans, we want to plant and harvest at the same time, right? We're in an immediate gratification space. So I want to plant in people, but I also want to harvest right on top of that. I want them I want to plant the seed, and I want to germinate and grow in them instantly. And I want to see the result of that right now. Well, that's not how it works. That's not, you plant in the spring, you harvest in the fall. That's how it takes time, and it takes nurturing, and it takes water, and it takes sunshine. And it takes absolutely right. And so, we plant it, and then we sit, as far as leadership, in terms of leadership for that, I remember seeing something that said, real true leaders and real true mentors are people that will plant the seed of the tree and water it and nurture it, knowing they'll never sit under the, right. It's not for them. It's for the next generation. It's for somebody else, but they'll plant the seed and they'll nurture it and look after it and protect it and whatnot to let it grow and right. But it's not for them. It's for somebody else. Right.
Absolutely.
Excuse me.
Absolutely. Now, we were talking about tattoos earlier. You and I love tattoos. So I'm just going to show mine, but I want to hear the story of yours.
Yeah.
Please show us your tattoo again, please. And then
sorry.
Missed it.
So that's
that.
a semicolon, but I am heart centric. So I used a heart instead of the black dot. And so the story around that is a semicolon is the international sign for suicide survivor. So if you ever see one on anybody, that's what it means. It's either their experience or they're honoring somebody that either has tried or succeeded. The gentleman that put it on my wrist, he told me that was the biggest one he'd ever done. He said, usually they're little itty bitty, which I thought was very interesting because it means people want to acknowledge that experience, but they don't want people to know. So they end up being these little itty bitty tiny ones, right? And so he said the other thing was, why is it on your right wrist? And I said, because when I shake hands with people, I want them to know if they understand what a semicolon is, instantly they know it's a no judgment zone, right? It's a safe place they can talk or share or whatnot, because I understand a little bit about what that's about because I've been there. So there's empathy, right? Yeah. And he asked me at the time, he asked me just recently because I reached out to him for some more body art, and he said, hey, does a tattoo work the way you wanted it to in terms of connecting with people? Yeah. And I said to him, absolutely it does. I said, I can tell you, I was in Starbucks not that long ago, and I think I shared that story with you. And the girl behind the counter held up the machine so that I could tap my debit card, and my sleeve must have come up just enough that she could see it. And she didn't say anything, but her eyes filled up with tears instantly. And she pulled her ear forward, and she had a little bitty, tiny little semicolon tattooed behind her ear. And in the moment, it connected. We didn't have to say anything, right? In the moment, we were connected deeply at our heart because she understood a little bit of my journey, had a glimpse of where I'd been, and I had a little bit of a glimpse of where she'd been. And so, it's something that somebody recently, last night, I was talking to them about. They were putting a little chip on their wrist that is like that's life force on our wrist, our pulse. When they take our pulse, a nurse will do that right there. Wow. So I put that, it's right over top of where my pulse would be. The heart is right over where my pulse, where you can feel my heartbeat in my wrist underneath the red heart in the semicolon. So our Papa's our life force, right? That's coming from him. It's based out of him. And so, being able to connect with people and let them know, hey, you know what? We get blinders. I'm the only one that deals with it. This is all my stuff. And there's no one else deals with what I have to deal with and whatever. And the situations may be different and everybody's a little bit different, but the overall concepts are the same. lots of people deal with depression. Lots of people deal with stress and anxiety and whatnot, right? We talk about, I talk a lot about the word stigma. I don't like that word.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Same.
I'm catching my throat. Stigma,
No?
if I take the word stigma out and put the word judgment in, it's more honest, right? It's not stop the stigma, stop the judgment. It's stop saying, hey, I'm better than them because I don't deal with that. We need to stop that as a society. We do this, we do this exclusive thing where we go, I'm okay, but they're messed up. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And as long as we do that, exclusivity, people will choose suicide over asking for help because they don't want the judgment. They don't want the shame and embarrassment that comes with that.
Yeah.
We have to understand it doesn't have to be full-blown schizophrenia or depression or suicide or PTSD or whatever. Maybe it's just a little bit of stress and anxiety because of something at work or at home or with the kids or with whatever. But if I don't deal with that stuff on the low end of that spectrum, I am going to end up on the other end of that spectrum, right? I am going to deal with the heavy stuff, right?
Yeah.
We're surrounded by people, and COVID made it worse because people don't want to or don't know how to deal in a positive way with the emotions they feel every day. And then we make it worse by having an expectation of those people. Well, people die, they get 3 days in Canada, they get 3 days of bereavement leave from work, 3 days, and then you got to go back to work. Well, you're not bereaving and grieving in 3 days and then it's over. That's the expectation, right? So after a month or after 3 months or whatever, people are like, you got to get back out come on, you got to get past. And they're like, I'm not past. You can't regulate grief. They say, and talking to people that have looked into and studied that, a lot of humans take as much as 3 years or more to finish grieving for a situation. And it's not just the loss of a person. Sometimes it's a loss of a relationship. Sometimes it's a loss of a job. Sometimes a loss of a dream that you thought was going to be there, that you want to be there, that's not there. And there's lots of reasons to have to grieve, right? But if we don't give ourselves the space and the grace that we would give anybody else, we're causing some challenges for ourselves, right? We're not equipped on our own. We need each other, right? We need Papa. We need the tools to be able to deal with stuff, right? And that's where, we look to our pastors and chaplains and our religious leaders, excuse me, our spiritual leaders, right? To be able to help us with some of those things. Right. I think a lot of people look to that. And if they're not looking to that, they're struggling because they can't. I think the thing is, as a coach, I'm not telling them anything they don't already know. I'm leading them to the answer. Excuse me. I'm taking them to that place. Right. It's allowing them. Same as you're bringing them to Papa. He's already inside them. So you're making them aware and asking questions and teaching them principles that get them to look inside. And when they look inside, they go, oh, look, he's already here. I just found what I needed, right?
Amen. I agree with you completely. It's all inside of us already. We just need to, sometimes someone just needs to, maybe they don't have the confidence or the courage to do so, to face things that they need to face. They just need that person by their side, like in your coaching. You just need that person just to spur them on a little bit so that they know they're not alone.
Absolutely.
And that they can do it. And, if it doesn't work the first time, they won't be judged or shunned or criticized for it. Then we try again.
Right. And try as many times as it needs, right? Yes. They say it's not about how Rocky talked about, it's not how hard you get hit or knocked down, right? It's how many times you can get knocked down and still get back up. Because as long as you get up one more time than you got knocked down, just once, just once, right? If you can get up just once more than you got knocked down, you're successful, right? Do you think of and I don't know, you guys have baseball the same way in South Africa, but in the US and Canada, baseball,
Yeah.
to hit the Hall of Fame, to be in the Hall of Fame, your batting average, a 333, so a 333 batting average is Hall of Fame. That means 7 times out of 10, just under, you struck out.
Yeah.
Right? You struck out 7 out of 10 times, and you're Hall of Fame because 333 is with the batting average like that. You were unbelievably effective, even though you were wrong 70% of the time. You failed 70% of the time, and you're still a Hall of Fame. Right? It's a perception. Yeah.
Wonderful example. Wonderful example. This is going to encourage so many people, because sometimes people feel they are the failure if they fail at something, and that is not true.
No.
You failed at something, you get the chance to try again. It doesn't mean that you are a failure.
Right. Well, and the only way to truly fail is to stop trying.
Yeah.
So if you keep trying, you didn't fail.
Yeah.
Right? They asked Thomas Edison, like if I remember correctly, he tried more than 10,000 times to figure out a light bulb.
Wow.
Right? And they said, well, how did it feel to fail that many times? And he goes, I didn't fail that many times. I found 10,000 ways that not to make a light bulb.
Yes.
Right?
That's a good answer.
He kept trying and kept trying and kept trying and kept trying.
Yeah.
He didn't fail. Eventually he figured it out. Right? But
And
you're
you
only
didn't
truly
give up. Yeah.
right. Don't give up. Just keep pushing. Just keep. So Dory from Finding Nemo, right? Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Right? Just keep swimming. Just keep trying. Just keep putting yourself. Keep showing up. Because as long as you keep doing that, eventually it'll work. If you have good intention and you're putting it out there, and you've got really good vision, and you've got, and I don't mean without glasses, I just mean, life vision, right? And a definite major purpose, and you understand what your why is, and you've got good goal. There's no way, if you're consistently persistent, there is no way not to be successful. There just isn't. And you don't need lots of things to be successful, right? You can try lots of different things and it doesn't work. Most people don't realize Abraham Lincoln failed over and over and over. He bankrupted several times. He was divorced at least once, right? But what do people remember him for?
Yeah.
Right. Well, he freed the slaves. One thing, just one thing that he did, that's what he's remembered for.
Yeah.
And it's a monumental. They were one of the best presidents they've ever had in the US.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And you go, well, for that one thing. Well, what about all this other stuff? Well, no one's paying attention to the other stuff. You only have to succeed once. You only have to have things work once to be, and you know what? At the end of the day, I think if we don't, we get stuck in the doing. We get stuck in the focus on what I'm doing instead of what I'm being or who I'm becoming. Right. And I think if we change and shift our pivot, what our expectation of ourself is, what does successful mean? If I strive and strive and strive and strive and it never ever works for me, or not the way I want it to work, am I a failure? No. Am I keep trying? Yes. Am I making impact? Yes. Am I being effective? Yes. So you know what? At the end of the day, our own expectation of ourselves even needs to be tempered. Right? It doesn't mean I don't keep trying, and it doesn't mean I don't keep doing personal development and learning and growing and trying to be better. But I give myself some grace. Right?
Amen. Amen. And I always tell people when I, mentor them, or when we do counseling, or even in the preaching, that if your attitude is, in the right place, you've won half of your task or half of your race. Because your attitude is very important as a leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They say your attitude will dictate your altitude.
Yeah.
Right? How high can I go? And the sky is not the limit, because there's footprints on the moon. So
I love that. Yes.
Right? I can't go higher, right? it's kind of the only thing that's going to stop me is me.
Yes.
Right. I think a lot of times, and I think that's what happened in COVID, right? People were like, it's all this other stuff. This is stopping me, and that's stopping me, and this is stopping me, and that's stopping me. And then when it shut off, they were like, crap, I'm the only problem, right? My one of the other sentences my son say, I am the only problem I will ever have, and I'm the solution. I have to take ownership of it. It is where it is because of what I've done, right?
Yeah.
Or choice I've made. I can make it better, right? If I have a plan to get better, nobody's got a plan to stop me. So I can make it whatever it needs to be. And Papa, as long as it's aligned with my why and with my purpose, absolutely, that anything can be happening.
Agreed. Once you've made that decision and you stick to it, nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you.
Right.
Because you will remind yourself what you all said to do. Absolutely. So I'm wondering, Gordon, what is next for you? You've started the Long Bearded Guys show. What is next for you?
Oh, good question. I'm still getting my feet wet with this, but again, that's the marketing piece I'm doing to be able to expand Jewel. So what's next for me? I'm writing a co-authored book at the moment about marriage and advice for married people. I'm in the process of finishing. I'm in the second book of my own book, series of my own books on personal development. And the working title is A Letter to My 18-Year-Old Self. Probably won't stay that way, but that's the concept of it, right? What are things that I've learned that I really wish someone had told me when I was much, much younger than I was when I finally found out, as a resource tool for people. So that's there. And again, jumpstarting the practice and getting that back going again in a meaningful way is something that's those things are next. We're about to be we're getting to be our oldest son is going to college soon. The one right behind him will go within the next couple of years. So we're that's kind of on the horizon in terms of empty nesting, which I think is great. My wife's not so keen on that yet. But what does that bring for us in terms of the next phase? That will happen in the next 3 to 5 years. So what does that? Where will that put us? Right? What's the vision? Where will we be in 5 years? Right? What will Jewel be? What will we be in 5 years? Right. Yeah. I heard a thing just this week where the gentleman had said, he challenged and said, do you know how many days of life you have left? And I'm like, well, how the heck would you know how many days of life you have left? And he's like, well, obviously there's illness and accidents and things like that can happen. But, by and large, most people are going to live the life expectancy has gone up from the 60s into the 70s, it's gone up, right? So it used to be 65, 70 years old. Now it's 90, 95 years old. It's amazing. So I look at it and go, okay, so his point was, if I live to be 90, and he said, take that would give you how many days? If you lived from the time you were born and you lived to be 90, that would give you a maximum of X amount of days, right? At 365 a year. So it's in like 25,000 range, if I remember correctly. But he said, take whatever age you are now, and subtract that, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm 54. If I live to be 90, right, I've got just under 40 years, right? Yeah. So how many days is that, right? And it's about 12 grand, 12,000, 10,000, something like that. And it's like, his point was, if I had $10,000 in the bank, that was my savings. And I knew I wasn't going to get any more because time is a finite, non-renewable resource, right? Yes. So if that 10,000 is all I've got left, do I willy-nilly spend it wherever? Probably not.
Good
right?
point.
And so I start to go, okay, 10,000, can I get everything I want to get done inside that 10,000 days? Wow. Right. And sort of to put that in as a perspective, it's not to be morbid about it, but to understand, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get out of this adventure alive. I am going to die at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do I maximize the time that I've got left? And then it builds into it to the point about procrastination. I don't procrastinate anymore because my brain goes, no, 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 no. I'm not going to get this. Like if I've got 10,000 days, tomorrow I only have 9,999.
Wow.
Right. And so all of a sudden, it gives me the moxie and the impetus to be able to go, no, 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 wait. I need to do something today to get stuff done because I only have a limited time to get it done. Right. And so while you're thinking abundance and living abundance, being understanding that it's a gift to be here. Right. It's and so, part of the honoring of that is to be able to give back. Part of the honoring of that is to do the best I can with what I've got and allow Papa to flow through me into other people, because at the end of the day, nobody stands at a funeral and goes, when they do the eulogies and whatever, they go, oh, he had a nice house and he had a great car and his bank account was huge. That's not what you hear. So, what are the things that are going to outlive us in terms of legacy, right? It amazes me that, you see incomes from people like Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley, and Elvis has been dead 70 years and earns. He makes more money than he's still in the top 2% of the income earners, and he's been dead for 70 years, right? Like, to make that kind of an impact on the world, right? That 70 years later, people are still talking about it, right? I remember seeing a meme that was talking about the Last Supper, and that Papa really knew how to throw a party, because 2,000 years later, we're still talking about it. That same kind of, how do I make a dent in the universe? How does Papa use me to make that dent, right? That outlives me, not just with my kids, but with legacy. What am I leaving behind, right?
I love that. I love that beautiful answer. And to me, and I'm sure to the audience, Gordon D Melville, you are a history maker.
Ooh.
You're going to leave behind a fantastic legacy. I can see it. And I'm glad that I'm going to be able to see how it unfolds and how many lives you touch.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I accept that. And thank you so much. It's, it means a lot. And to be able to give and be in a space to be able to do that is, it's fulfilling. It really is. It's
very happy to hear it.
It's very good. Thank you.
So my next, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure from my
Pleasure's
heart.
mine.
My last question to you would be, any words of wisdom for the audience?
Oh. Focus on being, not on doing. Find a way to understand what your true value is. Because if like I said, if we understand what truly our value is, what our value and our worth is, we make decisions differently, right? If I really truly believe my dad's a king of kings and he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills and the wealth in every mine, right? That's my dad's cows. I can go and milk those cows. I can ride on those cows. I can have fun with the cows. I can hang out in the mine and look at all the diamonds. But we don't think of that way, right? We don't, right? But again, I think it's a worth and a value piece. If I understand what my value is, really truly, then it's coming. That's Papa coming through me, right? That's Papa coming. People are getting a Gordon D Melville flavored version of Papa, right? Wow. And so being connected to that, everything changes, everything shifts, right? It's not just a pivot, it's an overall shift in our mindset, right? It's no, I have infinite value. You have infinite value. We all have infinite value. And if I can understand that, it helps me be.
Yeah.
It helps me become, because now my focus is on who I'm being, not on what I'm doing. And I find that I think it was Darren Hardy, I think I heard say that energy flows where focus goes. Right. So where I focus is where that energy is going to go. So if I'm defensive driving, right, they say don't look at the wall. That's I'm skidding towards the wall. My normal reaction is to look at the wall. Don't look at the wall, which is counterintuitive a little bit, right? Here it comes. But they say look where you want to go, because your hands will steer that way, right? Where the focus is. My focus is at the wall. That's what's going to happen, right? I watch a lot of hockey, and the little itty bitty guys, the Timbit, they call them Timbits here. They're little itty bitty hockey players, 5, 6, 7 years old, little itty bitty ones. But you see one get a breakaway, and their legs are going 300 miles an hour, and they're not moving all that fast because it's right. They're just little, but you can see them go. You can almost hear their brain going, "Don't hit the goalie! Don't hit the goalie! Don't hit the goalie! Don't hit the goalie!" And they get down there and they flip the puck, and it hits the goalie right in the middle of his crest, right in the chest. And he's like, "Damn! Why did that happen that way?" Well, that's where you were focused.
Yeah.
Right. That's where the focus went. Right. In church, it was and I'm not a big fan of religion for a lot of different reasons, spiritual, but not religious. And but in church, they would go, everybody was like, don't sin, don't sin, don't sin, don't sin. Oh crap, the pastor's sleeping with his secretary. How did that happen? Well, what did you think was going to happen? That you're focused on what you didn't want.
Yeah.
And that's what you're manifesting into yourself, right? So focusing in a space where I go, I understand what my value is. I understand what my worth is. I have infinite value and worth. I'm focused on who I'm being, not on what I'm doing, gives me a way more fulfilling life. And it lets me have grace for myself that isn't normally there when I'm doing, because if I'm not doing the right thing, then I get down on myself, right? But if I'm being who I'm supposed to be, then ultimately I'm doing what I should be doing.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful words of wisdom. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to be in this lovely session of Meticulous Moments to talk about leadership in your life. You are such a wonderful leader to many of us, and we really look up to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And spending some time, again, it's a non-renewable resource. So you're spending some of that with me and allowing me to spend some of mine with you. So thank you so much for that opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you so much. And for everyone watching this session, I'm going to be sharing Gordon's details after this session. Also, where you can catch him on is the Long Bearded Guy Show. Please support him, follow him on Facebook and on all the other social media channels. And let's just cheer him on as he makes a big difference in society. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.